Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, we're going to compare the proper swing timing of the forehand and two-handed backhand. Now, this video is courtesy of 12KGP Tennis on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his awesome channel. I've put his link in the description below. All right, Felix Auger-Aliassime. I found a forehand and a backhand with identical timing. So notice the split steps. So here he's going to be hitting a backhand. Here he's going to be hitting a forehand. Notice that the split steps are happening at the exact same time. That tells us that the opponent is hitting the ball at the same time. I want you to notice that he's hitting the ball at the same time. So everything is identical here. Yet what we notice is that the swing timing, if we look very carefully, we can learn the proper swing timing on both the forehand and backhand, and they're different. And in a second here, I'm going to show you this in front of the camera, so that you can improve the proper swing timing on your ground strokes. It's one thing to swing correctly. It's another thing completely to swing at the right time. All right, so let's look at the forehand independently here. What you'll notice with the pros, let's say a ball lands, in the middle of no man's land, let's say. A little shorter than no man's land, but right in the middle of no man's land. What you'll notice with the pros is they take their racket back, and they do it with a body rotation. They're not just pulling their arm back, but they're rotating their body. But what you'll notice is that when the ball bounces, that is when they'll begin the racket drop. So check this out. Here comes the ball bounces, and then watch, at that exact moment, he begins dropping the racket. So from the time his brain reacts that it's a forehand to the time the ball bounces, he takes his racket back with a unit turn, both hands on, tip of the racket pointing up. And then as soon as the ball bounces, then his racket begins dropping. Now, this is on a typical ball, right? So if the ball is going to land deeper and like on the baseline, this is a little different. So we're talking about just a typical ground stroke that's not going to land on the baseline. Ball bounces, the racket begins dropping. Let's look at the backhand. The ball bounces, but look, he is not dropping his racket yet. He's still not dropping his racket. What you'll notice with the pros on the backhand is when the ball peaks, that's when they begin dropping the racket. So here comes the ball bouncing. He's not dropped yet. Ball peaks. Now he begins dropping, and then he hits. And I want to say here that this information is only useful if you're filming yourself. So film yourself from the back and see if you have this timing. Because this is really across the board what you see with the pros. Men, women of all levels. Just not all levels. They're all pros. But, whether you're number one in the world, number 100 in the world, or number 1,000 in the world, this is the timing they use. Watch as the ball comes in. Watch how his forehand drops sooner. So his racket is dropping down earlier on the forehand, yet they hit the ball at the same time, the forehand and backhand. This is a really useful video in understanding the proper timing. Notice the split steps are identical. They turn, he drops the racket earlier on the forehand, then hits the ball at the same time. Now, to help me illustrate this, I've got the Topspin Pro here. You know what to do. Check out my affiliate link in the description below. I'll even pin it in the first comment. It would mean the world to me if you used my link to get a Topspin Pro for at-home practice. So thank you so much. All right, when to swing, not just how to swing. It's just as important if you have the right swing, but you're swinging at the wrong time, it's not going to help. So here it is. When the ball bounces on the forehand, that's around the time when you should begin dropping. Of course, things change if the ball's super short or super deep, but just a basic rally ball. You should take the racket back, and then when the ball bounces, that's when you'll begin dropping the racket. The difference between the drop of the racket on the forehand and the backhand has to do with the power sources that are being used. On the forehand, there is a greater ability to separate left side of your body and the right side of your body. That's because only one hand is on the racket, and it happens to be the back arm. The arm in the back, the shoulder in the back, is the arm holding the racket. So you can separate left side and then right side. So you can kind of stretch, uncoil, and then the hitting arm catches up. So on the forehand, what the pros will do, is they will begin dropping, and then as they're dropping, the power source really comes from a lower point. And they drop early to make sure they're not late, and then they pull pull with their left side if they're right-handed. That sometimes, depending on the racket position, creates a lag, and then their racket snaps through. So they turn, drop, unwind with the upper body first. There's a separation between left side and right side where when I took the racket back, my arms were together. Now my arms separate. Now my arms come back together again. So it's arms together, arms apart, arms together again. Together, apart, together. On the backhand, you can't have that separation because both hands are on the racket. So you can't like take your front hand off. You're going to be using a two-hander. So there isn't as great a separation between what the body is doing and what the racket's doing. If you open up your body, the racket's going to come forward. So, and that means you'd swing too early if you opened up your body as early as a forehand. So that's when you'll see the pros on the backhand side to get a lot of pace. Kind of create the environment where they're late. If you've ever been late to drive to work or drive to an appointment or drive to school, if you're late, you know you've got to go really fast, right? So by creating the environment where they're late, and they're not late, it's just they're setting themselves up so that when they swing fast, they're on time. That's how they're going to get the power on the backhand. So that's when you see the pros, they'll take the racket back, and then when the ball bounces, they don't swing. The ball peaks. That's when they'll begin the swing. And the drop is faster on the two-handed backhand, and really even the one-handed backhand, because you can't separate the body with the arm. Separating the body and the arm is a forehand thing because the front arm isn't on the racket. Whether you're on a one-hander or a two-hander, the front arm is on the racket. So if you open up, that pulls the racket forward. So it's important to delay the swing on the backhand. And I want you to go out and film yourself and see if this is the timing that you have. On your backhand, take the racket back, and when the ball bounces, you're still just moving around, and then when the ball peaks, you quick drop and go. So it's a much quicker swing. From here, they go down. If you notice, on Felix's forehand, I'll show you this from the front. On Felix's forehand, he dropped earlier on the forehand, but I timed them so that they hit the ball at the same time. So he dropped early and then a separation of the body. And that separation is a more powerful way of getting speed. That's why the pros will move around their backhand to get forehands, because separation of the body and the hitting arm creates a faster swing than waiting late and swinging through. Again, what I'm telling you isn't new information. This is just why people like running around their backhand to hit forehands. But on the backhand, he waited, and then the drop was much faster to the hit. So go out and film yourself. Compare yourself and your timing to Felix Auger-Aliassime. On the forehand, turn, and when the ball bounces, begin the drop, and it's a more relaxed drop with a great separation of body and racket to help accelerate the hitting arm. And on the backhand, when you turn, you can't swing as early. You have to wait until the ball peaks, and then now you're late. And now you'll be forced to swing really fast from this high position. Make sure that your timing, not just your technique, is correct on your forehand and backhand, and there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2MinuteTennis.net. You got this!